All right, let's move on to tonight's stories. And Sandy, as you may be aware, Telesol has launched its broadband, 4G broadband service in Accra today. Well, my colleague Eben Sabito was there, and he's been reporting that the Communications Ministry is pledging support for all broadband service providers, going to give them all the adequate infrastructure they need in order to bridge the digital gap.
Of internet service throughout the country is part of government's agenda to digitize the economy. Currently, efforts are being made to introduce initiatives that are digital-driven, like transacting business with government through electronic platforms. The paperless support system, e-immigration are just but a few of the measures being put in place to attain the digital goal. According to Deputy Minister of Communications, George Anda, internet service providers like Telesol will be given the needed support through the ministry to provide broadband services to all the 10 regions of the country.
Broadband has become a critical infrastructure prerequisite. The availability of 4G networks throughout the country will bridge the digital gap, ensure universal access to affordable broadband internet, and fair competition among service operators for the ultimate benefit of the consumers. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, one key component of making any economy smart is the availability of adequate broadband capacity to propel innovative applications and services. Government and the private sector, such as Telesol Ghana Limited, have roles to play to make the smart city agenda achievable. Government will continue to provide the right enabling environment to attract private sector investment for ICT infrastructure development, such as what we are witnessing this afternoon.
Managing Director of Telesol, Fumi Lamte, spoke to Joy Business on the driving force behind its 4G network service.
Just the place of focus so we have just been focused to do it, because for us, we desire to see the people of Ghana have global resource that positions them to run alongside their counterparts in whatever category of life. So that has been the focus, and that's what gives us energy to do what we do.
Are you partnering with any of the telcos?
No, we actually partner with a licensed metro fiber company, and the company is a public data company, but not a telco.
Telesol says it is on a mission to adopt new technologies to widen the current digital divide between Africa and the rest of the world, beginning from Ghana. Ebenezer Sabotage report for Joy Business.
Well, speak to any player in the agri space and they'll tell you that one of the biggest challenges they face is financing. That's because financial institutions are unwilling to support them with the funds they need to, go on with their businesses. But here's the catch. Financial experts are being said to lack understanding when it comes to agri trends. And my colleague Philip Namfori has been finding out how the situation is affecting the growth of agriculture in the country.
Financing agriculture has always been a topical issue undermining the development of the sector for ages. Financial lenders are often accused of lending too little to the sector due to the risks associated with the sector. Data from the Bank of Ghana suggests that only 3.9% of credit in the economy goes to the agricultural sector as of July 2018. This translates to 1.5 billion cedis. But apart from this, do banks have a role to play? Let's get some thoughts from the interim regional head West Africa of the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, Foster Boateng.
If you look at the whole rural finance or agricultural finance, it's fragmented. So there's a market failure.
Okay.
Once there's a market failure, that calls for government to intervene. Because if you look at, let me just put it this way. When it comes to rural finance or agricultural finance, we also target as credit for the poor. And then we create one size fits all. We don't create the required product features that can really address the needs of smallholder farmers. Okay? So whatever product that they have designed for those in commercial, maybe those in the commerce, is the same kind of product feature they designed for agricultural farmers. So farmers will not pay the loan.
CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, Anthony Morrison, also believes there are other alternative methods of financing.
The industry requires patient capital. You can't do anything. If you take our industry and farming per se, it's seasonal. and you give credit, take into consideration next month the person ought to start paying. I mean, where does it work?
It's difficult.
It's very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So it's something that we need to look at in a whole. We need a package, well-tailored and package a policy or system to drive what we're talking about. Now, that said and done, we're also trying to look at other areas of bringing out financing and not necessarily depending on the status quo, like the banks and other people. What about the FBOs, the farmer-based organizations, the smallholder farmers, the cooperatives, finding their own innovative ways of financing themselves?
In other news tonight, retailers are advocating regular street sales events to give boost to small and upcoming businesses. Joy Business was at a similar event in Adabraka.
Great opportunities, promotions and lots of discounts. From clothing to edibles, the annual Adabraka Fair had lots to offer. These retailers were obviously excited and think more of such street sales should be encouraged.
So far, yeah, I can say it has been helpful. So far, so good. I would like to see more such events. I learned I'll be having another one next year, April, so I'll be here.
For me, it's not really about the money, but it's about getting my brand out there for people to know about me and maybe, you know, give recommendations here and there, build my clientele. And I believe that this is a good enough platform for me to achieve that.
Some patrons who took part also spoke to Joy Business.
Yes, I've got a lot of things. I've got slippers for Christmas, I've got a dress, I've got so many things at very affordable prices. So I think we should organize more of such things. I think it's a very nice initiative.
I love to see new experience. So when I got to know that it's happening, I just had to pass through and then see what they have. And then I realized that there are some things I needed for this Xmas and they are really here. So I just had to pass by and get myself one or two things.
For organizers, the fair had been a successful one. Emmanuel Kofi Etiahene is one of the organizers of the Adabraka street sales.
This kind of events that we do, it increases productivity in a way. Now, let's say someone sells something in one little corner somewhere, which no one knows about it. And when I bring the person on public like this, people get to know the people. People get to know the vendor. They get to know the company. And it brings out the company out well. The publicity becomes more, you know. We need people to come in, help, push this thing forward. The government especially, because with this we did. We involved the assemblyman, some of the chiefs here to, push this whole thing forward.
Organizers of the maiden edition of the Adabraka Street Sale look forward to organize more of such events in the future.
You're watching Business Live. Let's bring you an update of our top story today. The Bank of Ghana is set to take a decision this week on plans by First Atlantic to take over the Energy Commercial Bank. Here's more in this report. Subsequently, you're watching Business Live. There's more to discuss after this break.
All right, so welcome back, and let's do our main story tonight. And almost every year, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly AMA embarks on a routine demolition exercise. And the last time such exercise was conducted was in January last year. And the Mayor, Mohamed Ejesuwa, confidently assured Ghanaians that that was going to be the last one and that Accra is safe from street hawking. But my colleague, Charles Aite, has actually been visiting those areas to see if the situation has indeed changed.
In the beginning of this year, the Mayor of Accra embarked on a massive decongestion exercise at the central business district of Accra. But just look around me. The traffic, the noise, the human traffic in that regard, everywhere has been congested. And just ask yourself, what happened in the span of all these months? So far, the question that has remained unanswered is whether or not it is a situation of legality against humanity, as the affected hawkers do say that they could be rid of their livelihood should a massive decongestion exercise take off. As well, the issue about the growing population in Ghana, as well as the high demand for goods and services, has caused a drain on the already existing markets that, of course, invariably has seen most of these traders leg onto the streets. We got in touch with some of these traders who tell us the fact that it will be a very huge situation for them. It will be a very dire situation for them. In fact, should a decongestion exercise happen, they just don't believe the entire concept works after all.
To be frank, I may feel about November, December, and May, fine, and May, and I can watch a trimp. We felt one space, and I may have a share no bad beno. I feel a few. I buy a can judge about Shreby and about Lokaya. If you're non in Cafe and Cafio, get a few can do for you, I will feel about Fitai. Car, I feel one yash you want to buy why a general. Any baby, I call Aquatandi, and a giant and Sakoyano. So, man, or more and Nunya and intimate to Andiacra. Have you wanted the I possible quantum de me if I left a deep rain, but a bit my sasso.
With the festive season approaching, whenever you visit a very busy place like this very market, you should be expecting something much more chaotic than this. Of course, traders will tell us that the numbers will double and, of course, the congestion will increase. But as they are here doing business on the streets and the pavement of Accra, the main issue that, of course, lingered is when they will be kicked out. When, of course, the demolition exercise would happen, if indeed it will happen effectively. For Joy Business, I'm Charles Aita reporting from the Central Business District of Accra.
So that's the situation at Circle, and Charles Aite, who was on the ground, joins me now in the studio. Thanks so much for joining me, Charles. And so you've been there before, and when the decongestion exercise was carried on, judging from how the situation was in the past and now, will you say it's been better than before?
Arguably, you could say that. I mean, we keep having this exercise time and time again, but it's just not sustainable. January, we had the entire tour with the Accra mayor, who gave us the clearest assurance that, of course, that very decongestion exercise that happened in January was going to be a sustainable one. What this means is that we're not going to be having any decongestion issues in Accra any longer. But from the visuals that we did see, it does tend to mean that, I mean, what's happening is in clear contrast to what the Accra mayor did tell us.
Why do you think that politicians actually lack the will to be able to get these traders from, I mean, judging from what you've been seeing, what have they been saying, the traders been telling you as to why they come back and why politicians are not able to move them permanently?
Well, so we have two issues here. The first one is the confusion between legality and humanity. The laws are existing, but of course, the human face to effecting these laws oftentimes slack the process. So we're having these hawkers on the streets. They claim that, of course, when you kick them off, they could lose their livelihood. You're also having the Accra mayor on the other side who is willing to make sure that everything is done in terms of the decongestion exercise. The second matter, of which we have been clearly, following closely, is the issue that has to do with the markets. Because availability of market for traders. Because the one that we have at Makola, the one that we have even at Circle, the pedestrian mall, are just limited markets that can't contain the number of hawkers, urban traders that we have.
Charles, I beg to differ though, because I think Ghanaian traders just have an attitude of trying to display their wares close to the road so that when people are passing by, they can actually see. And so you see that in the past, we have markets, centers for traders, yet they want to come and sell at the roadside.
It's good you said the past, because as we speak now, Ghana's population keeps growing, demand for goods and services keeps burgeoning, so we're going to be having more traders on the market, of course, of which we currently do see that they're just not fitting that space. So what do you expect them to do? I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. So it's an issue with, according to them, the market space they just can't fit into that very market space. It's not expanding. We've heard from the Accra Mayor, of course, that of course we're going to be having, you know, programs in place to ensure that we have new markets, even rehabilitate the already existing ones. But it tends to seem that despite all these assurances, despite all these claims, things are just not working.
From your interaction with the traders, did you get a sense of that if they provide the markets, they are willing to move out of the streets?
Absolutely. If they provide the market, why not? We shall move back to the market and get off the streets. But there's a different angle to, you know, the lackadaisical attitude by from the side of, you know, persons like you and I, who just wouldn't want to walk all the way to the market to get us that
but I don't buy on the streets.
No, but I just find it as very comfortable. You know, you just in your vehicle, you just tell someone that, hey, I just want to buy this one on the street or something, other than just having to walk all the way into the market to situate where exactly these traders are. So it's a catch-22 situation.
Okay, so we've had this assurance over time. We said we want to make Accra the cleanest city. We want to make Ghana the cleanest city. Ghana the gateway to Africa. Do you get this sense that with all that is happening on the streets, we can achieve this goal from what you've seen so far?
The simple answer is no. I mean, yes, we could give all the beautiful policies, we could implement all the legislations, but of course, if the situations on the ground are just not reflecting them, then where do we find ourselves?
Let me quickly chip in this. You went to the traders. Christmas is just approaching. Are people shopping?
That's going to be the second side of the story.
Okay.
They're just not happy. And you know this whole trend.
Why are they not happy? Like every year they tell you last year was better than this year. We keep hearing that. So when will there be a good year?
It's kind of a new trend, but you could sense from, you know, their conversation that they're just not happy. They're just not happy. People are not buying. The cost of, you know, buying these goods just has shot up. We're talking of the depreciation, the fall of the city in that regard. We're talking of issues related to the inflation rates, which is trickling down on these, you know, traders indirectly, of which we're having the situation and the circumstances in which they find themselves.
So it wasn't a choked market as we see in the past when Christmas is approaching, right?
Well, arguably, you could say it wasn't a choked market because, seriously speaking, 3 years down the line, if you visit the central business districts of Accra, you should find, you know, a very choked market. People not just getting a place to pass. We could even be hearing from the AMA, you know, moves to decongest the areas, you know, kicking people out, but it's just a cool market.
Won't you also say that the typical Ghanaian attitude where we want to wait for last-minute shopping could be playing some role here so that people are waiting that 3-4 days to Christmas, then we can shop?
Well, let's just test the waters and see. I mean, we shall be gauging the entire temperature of the various markets in the subsequent days to come. But, you know, the various concerns, you know, still tends to mean that the trickle-down effect of the city, the trickle-down effect of the market analysis is just not having a positive impact in terms of trade deals across our various markets.
Thank you very much, Charles IT, as always. Welcome. He was on the ground for us to see how the situation, decongestion exercise, we've heard it several times. Are we going to achieve that goal of making Accra the cleanest city? That's how we wrap up tonight on Business Live. My name is Sandra Isenamap, and I was doing this with Daryl Kwa, but for more news, do log on to myjoyland.com/business. Have a great evening. Thanks so much for joining us.